The idea of the Superman is the reaction of the sensitive man to the realities of a petty bourgeoisie. But in return, how does this idea work out when brought sharply face to face with these realities? The complacent and self-sufficient commoner cannot so easily be set in motion. And why indeed should he besteer himself to overcome man? His lot is quite tolerable. Not for him the sermon on the Superman, the higher humankind. Zarathustra is not the word for his benighted ears. If now the herd refuses to follow, the preacher has no other recourse than to withdraw and gather a sect of chosen few about himself. And this is tantamount to a denial of the realities of life, introversion, and their gradual substitution by a life of fiction, a transcendental world. It is important at this point to draw attention to the fact that originally man is autoerotic, self-sufficient. In the case of mature persons, this autoeroticism is more or less suppressed and is supplanted by object eroticism, wherein man experiences the need of another individual in order to complete his own happiness. A significant part of this object eroticism finds fitting expression in the sublimated form of love for one's fellow men. With each great disappointment, the wave of libido ebbs backward, the individual retires to solitude, and the ego becomes its own love object, narcissism. Zarathustra dwelt in the seclusion of the mountains, where he enjoyed communion with his own mind and wearied not thereof for the span of 10 years. At last, however, his heart experienced a change, and he rose one morning with the early dawn, stood forth before the sun, and spake to him in his wise, "Thou mighty planet! What would thy happiness be hadst thou not those for whom thou art resplendent? Behold, I weary of my wisdom, even as the bee that hath too much honey culled. I yearn for hands to stretch forth toward me. But the hands have no desire to gather his honey. Mankind needs not as yet his wisdom, and Zarathustra's hunger for love is destined for the time to remain unstilled."